Good morning. It is December 4th. Oh my gosh. The last week of 2023, the last month of 2023, we're in the final stretch. And I can say the first couple of weeks of December are kind of like, it's like we're getting the very last little bits of the lessons of 2023. And then from the 13th of December till the end of December, Mercury will be in retrograde and we'll have a couple of planets moving direct near the end of that. And so December really is an integration, incubation, a way of closing out this year, especially closing out kind of an era so that we can prepare to open a whole new era. And it will absolutely feel that way this year. I recorded an in-depth podcast with my friend Nicole. She's a human design specialist, and we actually broke each week down and talked about the energies. And I'll make sure I leave a link somewhere where you can access that podcast. But we're definitely in a week. This was the week of it's called the Night of Fire or the Night of Wands. And it is a week where we're coming into our maturity around our passion, our power, our energy, the way we use our life force. And so there could be, a series of interesting experiences this week. And the astrology this week is really assisting us in putting an end to the old era, really putting your foot down, having higher standards, choosing consciously what the story of our life is and how we're going to experience that story moving forward. And so the initiation for this week actually talks a lot about the wild parts of ourselves. There's a couple of poems in the planner called The Wolf and the Flame and The Wolf and the Woman. And both of them are sort of about acknowledging the fact that we are these beautiful, intelligent, capable prefrontal cortex humans. We are these creators. We are capable of seeing or projecting into past, present, and future. We are capable of adapting and making adjustments and innovating and all of these things. And we're also wild. We also have an instinctual nature that is not rational, that is the key to fueling our pleasure, it's the fuel that gets poured onto any innovation or creative project that we decide to endeavor with. And this week, we're meant to find the depth of that flame of our wildness. And that could come from any means. It could be triggered and come through a sense of aggression or anger. It could come through erotic passion. It could come through excitement for what's possible. And because the wildness and the fire may be coming up in ways that are a little more extensive than we are used to, or it's not feeling as suppressed as it has in the past, we might not always be able to handle the fire. Nights, whenever we're having a night initiation, that comes before a queen and a king. And the night information is always information that's a little like, wow, that's new. That's pressing into terrain that I am still learning how to master. That is an expression that is a little bit beyond the bandwidth of what I allow myself to experience. And I am going to learn from that. It's going to be humbling for me. So if our fire creates experiences that are slightly humbling for us this week, we're meant to use that information. We're meant to understand that we're capable, first of all, of having so much more fire than we've given ourselves the privilege to experience, but also that with that fire and with that power, we've got to come to a state of maturing and of stewardship of that fire. And so just know that whatever unfolds this week, whatever truths fuel that fire, or whatever truths are burned off and revealed through the fire of this week, we're going to deeply receive the truth of that in the following week, and then begin acting from that in a whole new way the week after that, before we head into Capricorn season. So that's kind of the trajectory of this. Don't have this expectation of yourself to be so like, yes, have the expectation that you have some levels of mastery. We're definitely coming into a space where we have to acknowledge the strengths that we have. But sometimes when you push into new terrain with yourself, or new power with yourself, or new passion, new eroticism, new energy, it can feel like you're a little out of your normal, comfortable range. And if you have a mindset that allows that expansion to happen, you can actually turn up the dial on what you're capable of experiencing this week. You can open the range of that neutral zone to experience even more authenticity. And really, the entire month of December is about authentic expressions of values, connection, and truth. This year, we've been set up to have one of the most authentically experienced holiday seasons, closures of a year, one of the most authentic that maybe we've ever had in our lives, where we're not acting like the people pleaser. We're not saying yes to obligations that don't feel aligned with what we truly want to experience. We're tolerating more pleasure in our systems rather than wearing the badge of tolerance of pain. We are opening up to more joy and bliss. And that is in some ways very vulnerable, but it also comes with it a slight impulse to contract, to be honest. I'm currently in a private group, and one of the massive breakthroughs I had in this private relationship therapy group that I'm in is that we are all really good at tolerating pain. The purpose of therapy, or opening up vulnerably, is not so that we can handle more pain or handle more trial or be more resilient. In fact, the purpose of opening up is actually so that we can tolerate more joy, more pleasure. In fact, we often condition ourselves to put ourselves into conflict when we're faced with two options, and one option is the one we want, but we're afraid it conflicts with what everyone else wants. And so we would rather feel, sometimes in the past, we may have wanted to feel the closing down of our pleasure before actually causing any kind of ripples in our relationships or with people that we care about. And so what happens when we experience more authenticity and the wildness of ourselves is that we start honoring what would actually make us happy, what we actually want, what we would actually enjoy unapologetically. And we face all those dragons around the words like selfishness and, I don't know, whatever we've been conditioned to think about not putting ourselves first. And so this week might have a little bit of, there just may be some things that are presented to us that give us an opportunity to see, well, honestly, I'd prefer this. And a past version of me would probably put myself in conflict and choose something else, but I'm not doing that anymore. And that's opening me up for a far more authentic experience this season. So that is honoring the wolf. There are a couple of poems in the planner. They're very short. I'm just going to read them. I don't usually like to read that much, but the first one is called Wolf and Flame. They're both by a poet named Nikita Gill. So you can look her up if you like her poetry. The people who consider you weak have not yet noticed the wolf hiding behind your eyes, nor the flame inside your soul. Let them think you are weak and do what wolves and fire do best. Surprise them when they least expect it. And my spin on that is, this week, surprise yourself when you least expect it. This doesn't really have to be about other people or like being a wolf for other people. This is more about the experience of yourself. you have fire and you have wildness, and you can allow that to surprise you and disrupt some of your own patterns this week. And then the next one is called Wolf and Woman. Some days I am more wolf than woman, and I am still learning how to stop apologizing for my wild. And let yourself be unapologetically wild is my little note on that. So that's the message for this week. And so I'm going to go through from Sunday to Saturday and just talk a little bit about how the energy is shaping up. Sunday was kind of surprising and strong from my experience. And when I wasn't actually looking at the astrology, so it felt as though I had so much more energy available to me. I felt like the sun came out, and I discovered later that that's because for me personally, the sun crossed over from the 12th house into my first house. Now, for anyone who understands astrology, I want to reiterate to you, when there are planets moving through the 12th house of your natal chart, specifically your sun, that's the most potent one. I call that the death part of your cycle. It's a part where you're closing out the version of you that's learned over the last 12 months of cycles. And so it's a time for reflection. You could feel a lot of nostalgia. It's a time where you could literally experience inflammation and emotions in the body that don't make sense. And my sun just crossed over. So I'm actually in a new year. So this is like my happy new year. So you might want to look at your natal chart and find out what that degree is on your ascendant and what sign that is, so that you can kind of mark on your calendar that the month before that date, it's a really good time to nourish yourself, hop out of routines, just let things dissolve, and then anticipate the renewal that happens when the sun crosses into the first. So in addition to that, on Sunday, Venus was square to Pluto and the moon was in Leo. When Venus was in square to Pluto, there was actually a shift. There was something inside of us that we were not going to tolerate any further in some area of our life. So there would have been this shifting into a powerful position inside that would have shifted the power dynamic on the outside. And the words I have for Sunday are strong standards shift power. So you may have identified an internal standard, like I'm not going to tolerate that anymore. I'm not going to stand for that anymore. I'm not that thing that is over. That's the end of the era has come. And now all I have to do is continue to hold that standard. So that would have been Sunday. And if you felt that, if you didn't feel it, don't worry, you'll probably feel it sometime this week. Because we have more motion, just letting the end of the era happen. Monday, the moon will be moved. Now today is Monday. The moon is in Virgo and Venus is moving into Scorpio. So Venus had that square off where she was in Libra. She was saying, you know what? This relationship pattern for me is over. I'm not inauthentic about that in any way. I have no roles left inside of me that are going to play that anymore. And so now that she's moved into Scorpio, the words I have here are emotional boundary setting internally. Venus will move through Scorpio and she'll say, nope, you just crossed my boundary. Nope, I'm not down with that anymore. Nope. And she'll say, and that gives me the space to open up to this yes, and to this yes, and to this yes. So I know we have a member of our group that was talking about how the statement no actually clarifies what the yes is in our lives. And it's all going to be activated for us from this point forward, with Venus having the internal, the heart-centered no's and yeses. So then on Tuesday, the moon will still be in Virgo. Moon and Virgo times are also times of great discernment and having a detailed standard for the way you want to live your life. And so that's happening in addition to Venus moving into Scorpio. But now on Tuesday, Venus will trine to Saturn. So Saturn is like a law or a commitment or a rigid form that we're making a priority, or that we're feeling the responsibility to. And so when Venus is trine, we kind of make that commitment. We've shifted our power. We're creating those emotional boundaries. And now we're seeing our commitment to that on Tuesday. And I actually see the words for Tuesday are reality checks and clarity. I think Venus will have us, or the moon in Virgo will have us seeing very clearly. Those are the reality checks. And the clarity is, we don't have to negotiate with something that we've committed to. Like commitment completely eliminates negotiation, because we know that we're committed to that thing. So it's a non-negotiable anymore. And I think that we're finding what those non-negotiables are, and that will bring a lot of clarity for us on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, the moon will be moving from Virgo to Libra, but the big news on Wednesday is that Neptune will be stationing to move direct. Now, Neptune has been in Pisces since 2012. It's been helping us to completely open up to our multidimensional selves, to the bigger picture of how we're connected. It's opened up our compassion. And with Neptune moving direct, it also is going to be a movement forward, or actually it's going to be stationing. So what I have here is that our fate and destiny will seem to stand still this day. There may be a moment on Wednesday where you're holding your breath, where you're like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, it's my fate and destiny seems to be suspended slightly. And when Neptune begins moving forward Thursday and Friday, that's when we'll begin to see the way that fate or destiny is shaping up. And so be aware. And also with the moon moving into Libra, this is also like the fate or destiny of our collaborations, of our relationships, the new authenticity in our relationships. So there could be some relationship issues on the table. Our relationships could be going through a role transition. If we're not able to change our roles, we could even be ending relationships to some degree. It could be a relationship with even something that you have in your life personally. So you might see that this relationship is in a transition, whether it's a relationship to your body or food or the way you think about yourself, or literally a person or work or family, etc. There could be a suspension there because of some of the boundaries that you've created internally. And it sort of could be a like releasing moment where you're just like, well, if it's meant to stay, it'll stay. And if it's meant to go, it'll go. And I'm just going to see how it plays out. Seems the energy for Wednesday. And then Thursday, there's a lot happening Thursday. The moon will be in Libra. So we're establishing a new sense of authentic relationships on this day. But those aren't the words I have. The words I actually have are, we're no longer falling for old karmic patterns. So old patterns in relationships might try to come back, but we're no longer falling for them. And there's a few different, I've got a Mercury trine to Jupiter and a Sun trine to Chiron. Now, Chiron is going to be highlighting some of the old patterns in wounding that we used to fall on. Some of the old ways that we would have sacrificed ourselves for our relationships, or, been a pleaser or gone into some old conditioning. The Sun is going to have some truth, and it could be a surprising truth that's revealed. And we might want to fall back on an old karmic pattern that we had before. And this, with Mercury trining Jupiter, it's like, whoa, feel your body. How does that feel in your body? What information are you receiving right now that's real, grounded, and tangible, that's coming from your body? Because there might be an incongruence. You might try to fall back into an old pattern, and your body will tell you that this doesn't feel right. And that's how we're going to resist the temptation to fall back into inauthenticity. on Thursday, so that we can forge a new relationship experience. And this is so subtle. Like, this is going to be probably with the people that are the closest to you, your children, your lover, your mother, whoever. It's like, just try to have beginner's mind. Remember the Knight of Wands. Remember that this is an opportunity for you to tolerate more pleasure in your system. Just give yourself all these little nuggets of opportunities, and it'll help to open your consciousness as the week kind of unfolds these little opportunities. And then on Friday, that's when Neptune really starts to move forward. And we're moving forward now with our fate. If there was some kind of news that we were in suspension on to see kind of how Thursday goes, Friday, I think we're going to have a lot of clarity based on what that fate is. I think we'll understand what moving on actually looks like. And then on Saturday, the moon will move into Scorpio, or will be in Scorpio. And that's like the solidification. It'll cross over Venus. We're going to be protecting the new direction. We've got the new motion. We're not falling for our old karmic patterns. And now we're sort of protecting that new neural pathway that we're cultivating with authenticity, with saying no to the things that are actually no's, providing an increase in our ability to experience what the yeses are for our animal body, our wild body. So this is what is heralding in the end of an era. The end of an era that was based on traditional values that we inherited from society and our families. An end of an era that we took on as a value system based on, popular culture, even like what movies told us, what mythology, what fairy tales told us. It's an end of an era where we've adopted anything that wasn't fully vetted by our own soul and heart. And so the only way we can actually have an end of that old era is if we really look at the tiniest little details of what we're saying yes and no to on a moment-to-moment basis. And your body is your friend. In 2024, we are going to have so many alignments to Chiron, the North Node in Aries, which is our animal, wild, most uninhibited self, and Uranus and Jupiter in Taurus, which is also the creature comforts, the animal, the wild parts of ourselves. We are set up perfectly to bring in this whole new creation from a more embodied space, but we're using this time now to shed what is not fully authentic to our embodied self. And so I can say it a million times, but just know this is the week where we kind of get to see the range of that, and then it'll dial in and feel a lot more like we're sitting in the throne of it next week during the Queen of Wands. And then we'll begin really acting from that space the week after that. So I've said it a couple of times. For some reason, it just feels like just give yourself a lot of grace this week and allow that grace and that self-acceptance to explore the space that you have available, because this is the week that the exploring is most supported. All right. So all that being said, I will post the podcast. There's even more there. I do still have some 2024 year ahead readings available in the month of January. I have 7 time slots available in January. If you would like to have a very personalized reading for 2024 that's talking about your recipe and how that recipe moves with the rhythms of next year, specifically for you, there are 7 time slots available in January, and I would love to serve you with that. In addition to that, I'm going to be offering a 2-hour collective energies workshop. I'm gonna, open it up. People can you can submit your charts, and anyone who's live and present on that, there will be a Q&A after I go over all of the months of the year, and you can come in and ask questions, and I'll pull your chart up and give, like, maybe everyone who's present, we can just see if there's I have a way of categorizing charts, so I could be like, everyone who's on team Scorpio rising, this is the answer for that generally. So be on the lookout for that. I'll have some registration details very, very soon for that. It'll be within the first week of January. And everyone with a planner, well, this was last year's planner. Everyone with this planner gets a free pass for that workshop. And I'll probably also have extra bonuses and stuff too for anyone who wants to join. So I think that's all. I'm super excited to see how this week goes. So much love to all of you, and I'll see you next week. And now we're going to start the group conversation. Gallery. Oops.